Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. So today I want to talk a bit more about the Samira versus Cardi B drama, the fact that Cardi B shattered the fatosphere. I just recently learned how to use favorite videos on TikTok, and so I'm going to react to more than just one in this video. I have my hashtag spawn by Nito. No, I'm just kidding. I would love to be spawned by Nito, but I have this because I still am and I don't know, I'm obsessed with that type of stuff. And so I just needed something, I like this type of stuff. I feel like because I have Jupiter and Virgo, I need something to put my Virgo neuroticism into. So this is really helpful. And I feel like these types of things help people to, can help you if you have binge. You need something sensory toys and stuff, or sensory hobbies like knitting, for example. That's one I've talked about a lot. That can really help. So you need something tangible that engages the senses to kind of channel neuroticism or whatever into, because now that I've lost more weight, I'm not MSP anymore, so I can't be all extra all the time. So my anxiety is now very internal, so I need this. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. That was a really weird way to start this. I do not care though. Y'all will have to bear with me. I think I'm just going to go in reverse order, especially because the last one is a greater point about the toxic ritualistic. What I want to say before we get into it is just that there were a lot of people who don't agree with Samira. There were a lot of different nuanced takes, people who saw both sides, people who liked both of them. It was very interesting. I definitely dived in. And so I just have to say that there's a lot of people that don't agree with Samira. But let's go ahead and get into this. So I'll start here.
It was just a joke between Cardi and her fans. It's not that serious. Oh my god, everybody's so sensitive these days. The origins of fatphobia are specifically in racism towards black women, dating all the way back.
So this is kind of an obvious go-to, and I feel like any of us who are familiar with fat acceptance, you had to know that it was going to go here. I think honestly it's just a case of people that have binge, E followed by the letter D. They are triggered by Cardi B's joke. There's an over-identification with being fat. There's an over-identification not even just with being fat, but also being a 3X. So I need you guys to understand, these are very, very superficial things that are not identity-based whatsoever. It's not deep. It doesn't run deep. Having a size 3X shirt is not a personality trait. It's not a political or religious affiliation. It's not a race. It's not anything. It is literally a size of clothing. So I think it's important to remember what sparked this and understand how absurd this reaction is.
Back to the transatlantic slave trade. Please look it up. Obviously, fatphobia has evolved to include all races and genders. They quite literally put black women of a certain physique on display and laughed at them like it was a circus or a show. And this is where fatphobia comes from, and it is really concerning to me that we have all...
So I need to definitely look into more of the history and stuff and see if there's even a shred of truth in what she's saying here. I would just argue that type of thing is probably more about racism than about fatness, just on the surface. That's my thoughts, basically, my instant thought. And I think it's really important not to conflate the two things, as they're very different. They're pretty much entirely different. I don't think there's a single way that race and fatness are similar. Like, legitimately. And I feel like it's important to bring that up, because if you really think about it, there is no correlation. There's no such thing as like fat culture, being raised more or less fat. There's no like history of fat people being discriminated against. There's no fat heritage and stuff. It's like not really. If I look at my family tree, like, if I go back 4 generations, no one was fat in my family. Even if I looked at my current life, there are plenty of people in my family tree that are not fat. So it doesn't make sense. It's not similar. There's no fat roots. There is just no connection. There really isn't. And that needs to be stated. And if we're talking also about being a size 3X, that is like crazy to even like go there.
All forgotten this part of history. I commented something like that on Samira's Instagram post, and people jumped on me and told me that it was not true and that I was exaggerating. But even if we put all of that aside, fat people are always going to be the butt of the joke. And when you're punching down...
Okay, well, the whole like trying to use race to bolster your argument and then just, well, even if it's wrong, whatever. Fat people always be the butt of the joke. Okay, well, everybody can be the butt of a joke.
At fat people, you're punching down at every marginalized identity. Moreover,
punching down within weight is not an actual concept. Like, it's very important. If you are struggling with toxic ritualistic issues, if you are somebody that has had an E followed by the letter D, you need to understand that the body hierarchy is a part of the toxic ritualistic world. That's what I call it. So if you are constantly viewing everything based on body hierarchy, you are abnormal. There is something wrong with your way of thinking. That is not a typical way of thinking. Most people don't think of it that way. Most people, it's not much deeper than, oh, that person's more or less attractive. But again, there's many other things that can make somebody more or less attractive. It's not that deep for a lot of people other than that. Or it's about health, which is just reality. That's very objective, honestly. So if you're looking at like, well, this making a joke about a fat person, that's punching down. Based on what? Based on your DIS order. That's not real, though. That's delusional. It doesn't exist. You can make a joke about a thin person. You can make a joke about a fat person. You can make a joke about a tall person. You can make a joke about a short person. Are you punching down if you make a joke about a tall person or a short person? Are you punching down? It doesn't make sense. That's more similar. And even that is not as similar because height is less of a choice than weight. Weight is a choice. And that pisses a lot of people off, but it's because they don't want to acknowledge it because their whole delusion depends on it. That's why they don't want to admit that it is a choice to be fat. But as far as punching up and down, it has a similar connotation of short and tall and stuff like that. There's no segregation based on height. There's no, marginalization or whatever you want to call it based on height. It's similar with weight. All races can be tall or short. Everybody can be tall or short, basically. So it's the same thing with fatness. But like I said, fatness is even less relevant because it is a choice. Hope I made that clear.
People are in Samira's comments telling her to give it up. Why is this the only thing you talk about? Why can't you talk about anything else? Why do you keep complaining? You can never be happy. How do you think we got rights, bestie? How do you think that we got rights? How do you think
fat people have never lacked rights? So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? There's no historic connotation of fat people not having rights. So not only do fat people have every right today, but they always did. So what are you talking about?
Black people got rights? How do you think women got rights? How do you think gay people got rights? What do you think they did? Activism. Yeah, activism in the time.
And what right are you fighting for today?
Of social media looks significantly different than it did in the time of Rosa Parks. But they're the same thing. I saw another creator on here say something very true, which is that y'all would hate Malcolm X.
I feel like that was really disrespectful, but I'm just going to let that go.
All of the people that are responsible for the foundational freedoms we have today didn't shut up, and Samira isn't shutting up either.
I agree that activism is persistence. I agree with that. A lot of people have been pissed at me before. Oh my gosh, you're so repetitive, Alex. Oh my gosh, I can't stand you saying toxic ritualistic, blah, blah, blah. I've heard it before. I'm Lana now, I'm in my Lana era. I've seen the world, done it all. I've been there. I've heard it. But yes, being an activist, you often have to repeat yourself. There are times where people, they don't understand this isn't primarily an entertainment channel. This is an activistic channel. So it means that I'm making certain talking points and I have to be repetitive about it so that people understand. Most of the time, people need to hear something at least 7 times. And just because you may have heard it often doesn't mean that a new person that comes to the video has heard it. So yes, I agree. Activism is persistence, but you still have to actually have a goal. Which, what the hell is the goal within fat activism other than normalizing super morbid obesity, which is disastrous. It is a disaster. And other than reinforcing people's binge problems.
The entire point of her platform is to bring to light this very serious issue of discrimination against fat people. The problem isn't just, I can't find my size in a clothing store. It also is medical fat phobia and bias in medicine. Are we forgetting that the BMI chart was created by a man who wanted white skin and blue eyes and blonde hair as the only race? Like, we are collectively losing.
I don't even really use the BMI. It's irrelevant. Especially now that I'm no longer obese, it's irrelevant. But even as I was doing it, I went by body fat percentage. I think it's more effective. It's more physically relevant. But regardless, BMI being there or not, you can use it. I've told you guys many times, BMI can be super helpful within classes of obesity. It's very good. It helps, and it's you have to understand what it's for. It's for especially like the medical world. It's for populations and these types of things and correlations between health issues at different classes of obesity. That's what it's for. It's not necessarily for each individual person, especially when you get to overweight. It can be much more subjective at that point. But within the toxic ritualistic world, if there's any gray area or any shade of gray they still rush to make it black and white. But that is like a psychological issue within this problem where people must have it black or white. It has to be all good, all bad, zero nuance. So if BMI has certain roots that maybe are not savory, then it's all bad completely. Like there's no nuance whatsoever. None.
Key pieces of history and knowledge, and it is causing all of these things that are occurring right now. This most recent example.
I think it's important to understand basic physical reality and basic facts about obesity that you are throwing out. You're not acknowledging it as an issue. The biggest one being that it's a choice. So therefore, by your logic, fat people, quote unquote, are choosing to be oppressed, which I do not believe fat people are oppressed, nor have they ever been. No. But that's your logic. You try to ignore the fact that it's a choice, but you're ignoring that. So you are saying that you're choosing it. What I think it is a toxic ritualistic drive to sabotage yourself and to make yourself miserable as a form of controlled trauma due to something else that occurred that was likely out of your control. That's what it's really about. So although you may say these things, what your subconscious is telling you is, I choose to be oppressed so I can be miserable in a way that I can control because I was out of control earlier in my life in some way. And I'm here to say that's all bullshit. You shouldn't do that.
Example being with Cardi and Samira. And I'm fully prepared for people to jump on me for this take. I don't care. Samira is doing
it's not
activism.
Personal. It's not personal. I don't typically jump on people personally. There are some fat activists that I personally cannot stand, and I have tried to start telling you guys so that you guys know if I do get personal. For example, William. It's true. There's a little bit of personal stuff. I try to keep it lower, but as far as most people, it's not personal. So I'm not coming after her as a person.
She is doing good work and standing up for a marginalized identity as a person in that marginalized identity. She's not looking for attention. She's not complaining. She's bringing to light.
She is complaining. Like, that is a blatant lie. The attention, you could say it one way or the other. I think she is an activist, but I don't think she's as effective as she thinks she is. And I think that that's shown by how public sentiment has kind of turned against her, which I'm glad, personally, because I don't think that her takes are the best. A lot of the stuff that she advocates for, it's not really economically feasible for certain businesses. It doesn't make sense. She doesn't keep in mind, like, areas, demographics, things like that. Like, businesses have to look at that stuff. And she doesn't think about that stuff. And, like, what if it doesn't ever sell? She has a huge issue with the TikTokification of her brain, where she thinks that everybody is a 3X. That's not true. As somebody, I was a 3X for many years. I was the biggest person in the room most of the time. It's not that common.
A very serious issue. And as soon as we start jumping on people who are marginalized, they're gonna keep jumping on other marginalized identities too. Why can't we all just be like...
So that's very, like, superstitious. Ooh, it's boogeyman. Maybe that's you. Maybe you would. I don't know. Maybe you have to personally hold everything in your mind a certain way, or you're just going to start attacking everyone. But that's not how most people think. Most people can think with nuance. Most people can see shades of gray. Most people can see how things are different. Most people have the ability to do all that stuff because they're not locked in a toxic coping mechanism that has warped their brain and possibly caused the hypohaze. You know, there could be some physical basis. She could be having hypo brain issues due to her choices. And so she's not able to think nuance, but most people aren't like that. So whether it's physical, purely psychological, regardless, most people are not like you. They're not, if they make a fat joke, they're not going to suddenly start attacking everybody. If they disagree with obesity, that doesn't mean they hate everyone else. I mean, the jump is just ridiculous.
You go, girl. Why do we have to bully someone for trying to bring attention to a very real problem? I think it's because a lot of people don't see it as a problem, honestly. But the people who live in the bodies like this, we know it's a problem. Still will never understand jumping to the defense of a celebrity who doesn't even know you in exchange for someone who is an activist. It was just a joke between Cardi and her fans.
Well, that's just reality, hun. I don't know. That's how people are. You cannot understand it, but that's how people are. Okay, let's go to the next one.
If Cardi B was selling makeup and all the darker skin foundations sold out first and she got on here and said, damn, y'all black as fuck, y'all need to stay out the sun, would we still find it funny? Would the joke still be in the room with us?
So, this is another case of conflating fatness with race. They're not the same. So, there's nothing wrong with having darker skin. There is something wrong with being super morbidly obese. That's like a huge difference right off the bat. Also, I mean, I guess you could joke about it. I don't know how it would go over, but some people would care, some people wouldn't, I guess. You guys can let me know. But regardless, it's not similar to being fat. That's basically my biggest point.
All right, because those type of jokes punch down on marginalized communities, correct? Right. We know that those type of jokes lead to oppression, dehumanization, public shaming, and bullying. Just like...
I don't know if we do know that. You know, I think that that's a little bit of a leap. I think that certain jokes can be particularly nasty. You know, maybe in certain circles, jokes can lead to an attempt for political action and this type of stuff. I do think that that does exist, but there's often a lot of cases where jokes are pretty benign, or they're just for a laugh, or it's to laugh at how ridiculous something is. You know, not to like take it seriously and try to make political shifts to make it happen, right? That happens too. There are different ways of joking. Sometimes a joke is saying something taboo to point out the ridiculousness of something, or to tell a truth that's hard to hear in another way, you know? But, and I'm not saying that Cardi B's joke was that serious or whatever, or that deep. I'm just saying that jokes don't always lead to political persecution, is what I'm trying to say.
How y'all are doing with Samira right now, right? And God forbid that pushes her into a dark place. And for all the fat ass big back bitches I was talking about, oh, I'm fat and I found it funny, get some self-respect, please. I'm begging you, because that wasn't a joke. She was very serious. She has literally risked her life on the table to not look like you. Has been under the knife more than a Thanksgiving turkey to not look like you.
So when I hear this type of thing, I'm so confused as to what fat people expect. If this is all out there about Cardi B, then why are you expecting her to give a fuck about a fat struggle, for example? Why are you expecting her to be super mindful about this issue, or to act like it's sacred? Why would you expect that from her? I think that what's happening, I think particularly with her, is again, it's touching on something, you know, whether this is toxic ritualistic, it could be just because the reaction is so strong to something that is not, honestly, not that serious. It's not. and she's attacking Cardi B as a person. You know, she's really going for it, very angry about it. I think because of an anxiety response. It has to do with anxiety. It has to do with, I don't like that you said something that triggered my issue with my body. So now I want to lash out. And this happens with a lot of people. This happens with anybody with these issues, really. You know, we saw it with the Taylor Swift debacle, which I know it's toxic to say, but part of me, I really hope that Taylor's new album, she says something fatphobic again and it freaks everyone out again, just because I want to talk about it. And I like it when I can talk about Taylor while I'm doing my work. And I'm so mad that I wasn't as established when that happened. Damn you, Taylor. That's my request, Taylor. Like, I need another moment. Okay? But anyways, if she does that, she'll make me happy. She will. But anyways, the point is, like, this type of thing can happen. You know, people lash out. They lash out really, really hard over it because it makes people anxious. And I think that's what people don't always understand when it comes to this community. Because people will say, like, why are they doing so much? Or why are they so mad all the time? Or why are they, you know, where is all this coming from? It's coming from anxiety. It's an anxiety response. And that's something that when you're on the outside looking in, you have to acknowledge that that's why there can be an emotional intensity behind something that is, to you, not as serious. But to the person that has the issue with their body, it's very serious to them. You know, I definitely went through my times where I would have completely collapsed in on myself over comments about my weight or something. Like, especially when I was younger, I would have wanted to leave the room. Things like that. You know, that was kind of more my response because I was more of a silent person. I'd have to, like, go by myself and, like, lick my wounds kind of thing. And a lot of people couldn't understand that, but it's an anxiety response. And other people, they externalize. So they'll start yelling or they'll start getting mad. People have different responses to anxiety, but the point is, that's where this is coming from.
And I'm not going to lie, Samara kind of clocked her teeth when she said she don't respect herself, because she doesn't. I can't respect her ex-husband.
So she's going to go after her personal issues and stuff and go, you know, I can't think of the term right now. My mind is blanking. I guess go for the jugular, basically, because of the anxiety.
Father of her 2 kids doesn't even respect her. Just finished the interview disrespecting the fuck out of her, and he didn't even say her name. But y'all knew this already. Y'all just want to get on here and be ignorant, and that's okay. That's your prerogative to be ignorant. But don't get on here telling other people what is and isn't important and what is or isn't revolutionary, because clearly self-love and self-respect is very revolutionary to y'all, because it's very clear to me that y'all have none. Period.
So I think there is a little bit of hypocrisy too, because you can't tell other people that it's not important or what is or isn't important. Like, she says that, but then that's what she's doing. So that's kind of a flop. But I don't think that she's like an activist. She's probably just somebody sharing her opinion, which is fine. But if she was an activist, I'd be like, that's a really big flop as an activist. I try not to ever do that. But I mean, I guess she is technically, like, she is participating in fat acceptance. So I guess to a certain extent, she is still making an activistic point. And so I'm still going to say that's a bad one. That's a flop. Okay, let's continue. Okay, this one.
Honestly, I'm tired of how y'all sit and tell fat people how we need to react to certain shit. I'd have been silent these last couple days because, you know what I mean, I took a mental health break. But if I'm being 100% honest, I'm genuinely tired as a fat black woman. I am genuinely tired, whether it be people like Cardi B, the people in the comment sections yelling at Samira, whether it be any of y'all trying to tell fat people how we need to read and how we need to feel about the fat phobic jokes that y'all make. Because I do not care that your fans, according to Cardi B, I don't care that your fans.
So I think this is still an issue of projection. It's not necessarily about, I don't know. I mean, maybe there are people who are telling, fat people, quote unquote, how to feel about a joke. But I think that the issue is people within fat acceptance, you are telling other people how they should feel about it. So I think there is an issue with like reciprocity within fat acceptance. They can't understand that in order for things to be fair, things have to go both ways. So you can't tell somebody to not find a joke funny, just like they can't tell you that you have to find it funny. And there are a lot of fat people who did find it funny because, again, there is no correlation between fatness and belief. None.
Fans apparently were like, oh, making the joke themselves. Just because people are making a fat phobic joke doesn't take away the harm. And when you get on a platform as big as you have and sit and say and repeat these jokes back, you don't realize or care, because it's very apparent that you don't care. Because not only did you double down on it, but then you're now you're going back and forth with like influencers on it, and then you going back and forth with influence on it are going to cause your fans to attack that girl, because that's exactly what's currently happening right now.
So this is also hypocritical because Samira sends people all the time to attack others. So you need to look at who you're defending as well. I wish that fat activists would just say that I think people could hear the message more if you would say something like when I heard that joke, it triggered me and it upset me personally. And this is why. Because I think what's important to understand is this is a personal issue. And I think that's one of the biggest issues with fat acceptance and like the concept of fat phobia, is that it's trying to make these very, very deep psychological issues into societal issues that most people don't have, and trying to project that onto the world and onto politics and culture and all these things where it isn't even really there necessarily. But when you're living in this issue, it's all you think about. It's the air you breathe. It's everything to you. And it's very hard to imagine that other people, it wouldn't be anything to them. But that's a part of recovery, and it's a part of seeing what aspects of you are delusional. And that is delusional, to think that everybody's thinking about this issue as much as you are. It's not true. It's just not.
Right now, she's being attacked all because you want to double down on something that you are not well equipped enough to understand. You've never been a big girl before, so you wouldn't understand how those types of jokes dehumanize you as a whole, and how it makes it that.
I have never been a big girl, but I have been very big. I've been a big girl, a big girly pop. No, I'm just kidding. GORL. But no, I mean, I've been very big before. I do understand it's not dehumanizing, it's triggering, actually triggering to an issue. It makes you think about how you look in a way, and you may be, you're always thinking, when you're in this issue, you're always thinking, is this safe for me? Is this situation safe for me? Is this group safe for me? Is this fandom safe for me as a fat person, because I'm overly identifying with being fat, and my fatness is tied into my coping mechanism. So am I safe to continue this coping mechanism in this space? And if you're not, then it increases your anxiety. But it's a very, very personal issue. And that's what they can't understand. It's very personal.
that much easier for society to say that you don't matter, for society to say that's the reason why we don't make clothes big enough for you, and that's the reason why no one in society wants to date you or find you attractive. You don't get.
But that's also what you're paying attention to. And it's also, you are having certain struggles, you know, as a result of behaviors around food. And that's something that does require accountability, and it requires looking at. It's not something that just magically happened either. And people see that in the world. And if you deny it, it doesn't matter. People still see it. And that's difficult to understand. Being a 3X, for most people, that is super morbid obesity. That is big. Like, we have to think about what they're talking about here. This is, I mean, the attempt to normalize being a 3X. Think about it.
How those jokes reaffirm that we are not human. Samira gave you grace. Samira is way more.
We are not human. Like, that is so dramatic. You know, I do think there are some people within the toxic ritualistic world, even on the side, the reductive side, that maybe do dehumanize. But often when you make your whole identity about fatness, you are dehumanizing yourself. Because being fat is not an identity. It's just not. It isn't a human identity.
Versed in the topic of fat phobia and like fatness in general than I ever will be, because she's dedicated the time to put in the work, because she genuinely gives a fuck about it. I give a fuck about it, which is the reason why I support her content, because she's been doing a fine job of letting everyone know that fat phobia is a real thing. Y'all need to stop it, and you need to learn how to be inclusive. And granted, you are being inclusive by making a 3X size for your brand, but you're being uninclusive by making fun of the very same people that sold it out for you. That should let you know that your fan base is made up of fat people. And whether or not that you are fat and you found the joke funny means shit to me. It means shit to me, because you can be black and...
I know, but people can also say that back to you. People can say, well, it means shit to me what you think about the joke. I always find it strange that they view like how they feel about something as more important than somebody else. It's strange.
Find an anti-black joke funny. Doesn't change.
So she's trying to again conflate with race, which again, you're not a better person because you don't find something funny. That's not true. Humor is very, very subjective.
Change the fact that it's anti-black though. The same thing when it comes to fat phobic jokes. You can find a fat joke folk funny, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a fat phobic.
It's not the same
joke. And it doesn't change the fact that, like, when y'all make these jokes, again, you are...
1 second. Okay, sorry about that.
Just reaffirming the harm that fat people receive on a daily basis. And also, if you don't want to admit that fact, then double down on it, Bookie. Double down on the fact that you want to remain ignorant. Double down on the fact that you don't want to actually see fat people as human and worthy of respect. And, like, actively not, and learn how to not make fun of it.
Because you find a joke funny. It's too much of a leap. It's too much of a leap.
Because there was a way for you to make a joke about your plus size people without actually being fat phobic. Like, oh, my plus size girlies sold me out. Thank you. Like, that's all you had to say. But instead you said, oh,
that wouldn't be a joke, though. That's just a statement. Okay, if she's talking about Cardi B in general, like, I don't know. It's like, do you not know who she is? You know? I don't know.
As fuck, like, and even, like I said, even if you were repeating the joke, I don't know what made you think in your brain that that was okay. And when people, when actively Samira told you, like, not a good look, maybe you should apologize, you double down. And now, because everyone is holding your feet to the fire, because everyone is actively seeing how now your fans are going out of their way to attack that girl, now suddenly you doing what all celebrities do, which is, I'm not gonna say anything anymore. I'm just gonna sit here and make my music and not engage with y'all because everything I say is wrong and you guys have a problem. Like, really? Really?
Yes, really.
And this is the same Cardi B who was out here, you know, talking about all the politics stuff.
Now, as far as like Cardi B in general and like within herself, that's a whole other issue. 1 second, sorry. Okay, sorry, there was some background noise. So as far as the if Cardi B is making political statements or setting that expectation, then that's something that Cardi B is gonna have to deal with. She's gonna have to deal with, you know, she wants to be in politics as well, then that opens up a whole can of worms. Cardi B has to deal with the fallout of, you know, pissing off people on her own side, which again, a lot of fat activists are on the left. So, or you know, probably, I don't know if all of them are at this point. Like, there is fat acceptance on the right, but I don't know if there's fat activism on the right. Like, they're two different things. But regardless, the point is, that's like a different issue entirely. And I can understand her being upset about certain like political expectations. But again, I think regardless, this issue of fat acceptance is not actually political. It's pathological. It is psychological. It is physical as well. And putting it into a political realm, it doesn't really belong there. And they try really hard to, but it's just because they're building a whole system around their E followed by the letter D, basically. That's what it is. And I don't support that. I think that's horrible.
And could recognize the harm that people in certain spaces were doing when they say certain things, but you can't recognize the harm that you made when you made that joke when you're being called out for it. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird, and it's very telling. Honestly, I'm tired of how y'all...
Okay. So, let's go ahead. I think I have one more. So this is more so, I want to show you guys, like, kind of the severity of the toxic ritualistic world, the severity of the backlash and the overreactions that can come from this issue. And I want to also reiterate that it's not political, because people will literally throw their politics to the wayside over the issue of fatness. So let's go ahead and watch this one.
As much as I would rather eat a stir-fried denim jacket than participate in public discourse, what's happening between Cardi B and Samira is a perfect illustration of it's not what was said, it's who said what was said. Because I recall a few years ago when I had came online and was defending a sex worker against this like ashy man who was attacking her for no reason, being misogynistic. And I called him big back. He was a thin man, mind you, he was thin. Like, so I was just like using it as a lexicon because I was reading him his rights. People dragged me for 30 days and 30 motherfucking nights. They'd be like, it's fat phobic to say big back even if you're not even talking to a fat person. And I agree.
See? So it doesn't matter. It's the number one issue. And I think that that's what people don't get either. They are sometimes shocked that it will be the number one, but it is. They will throw everything else to the wayside for the issue of fatness. I mean, we see this with Aubrey Gordon. She's a great example. Like, Aubrey Gordon was, you know, a political activist, and she threw away her entire political activism to pursue promoting the toxic ritualistic world, basically. It's her whole life. People do not care about other issues as much as they care about this. And that's something that people cannot understand unless if they're in it or they've been in it before. I've been in it before. So I'm telling you, people will throw it away. They will throw it away, everything away. So the fact that he said something about that even touched on it, they went after him. And listen to how deep it went.
Agree. I'm not contesting that anymore. I was educated. I apologize. Like, I'm not bringing it up to rehash the actual topic itself. I am saying, like, the response that Cardi B is getting with everybody attacking Samira, and then also everybody saying, like, y'all need to relax and calm down. It's not that deep. It was just a joke. It, like, really highlights that it's, like, literally who says it and not what was said. And, I mean, they were, like, trying to report me to my job. They're like, imagine coming online and seeing a therapist.
Over him saying big back. Look at that.
Your therapist saying that somebody got a big back. I mean, 30 days and 30 motherfucking nights. And yeah, I just think it's odd who gets away with.
It's odd to me that he caved to it completely and he thinks that it's okay now. I don't think it's okay, and I think that it's really, really weird. I'm just telling you, you know? People die for this shit. They do. So I remember when I was starting out, I had some comments telling me like, why are you talking about this issue? This isn't important. There's so much going on in the world. I'm like, honey, first of all, like, I'm an activist. I'm not God. I cannot cover every single aspect of the universe and the planet. Like, you need to either become an activist yourself for an issue you care about or go elsewhere and find an issue that you care about, period, for one. But for two, this is a very important issue. Huge amounts of people in this country are obese. It's an impending health crisis. It's already been happening. We had a whole panini that was complicated by obesity. We have, people with less life expectancy than their parents over this issue. We have people who will die for this issue. We have people who have died over this issue. And I mean like millions and millions of people have died over this. And people were trying to tell me it wasn't important. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? But I'm just saying. So, as much as people will say that, they will also throw every other belief they have to uplift that if they're within this issue. So it's very strange. But that's why, it is important to me because they're trying to ruin his life over that. Or they were trying to. And for what? Just so they can perpetuate their own coping mechanism. That's self-destructive. It's crazy. So just be aware. I want you guys to be aware of the hornet's nest that is the toxic ritualistic, because if it ever happens to you, I want you to know why. It's a psychological problem.
What? And I'm not saying that.
And it is communal too. So it's a social issue too. Like, it's EFA by the letter D is not just internalized, it's also externalized, and it's socially reinforced. So it's very tricky. But people hit on it sometimes, or they hit the hornet's nest on accident and they don't know because they've never had the problem. Because you'd be surprised. It's like the toxic ritualistic people, they come out of the woodwork when something happens. And you're like, whoa, where the hell are all these people coming from? Yeah. I mean, I speak for myself too. Like, we kind of live in the shadows. I'm not in it anymore. But those who are in the toxic ritualistic world, they live in the shadows. And they come out if you trigger them. So, I just want you to know that.
Cardi needs to be, like, attacked or anything, because I don't think she should be. I do think, like, it's an opportunity to take a step back and, like, learn. But people have to be open and willing to learn. And if people aren't even capable of recognizing how they could cause somebody harm in a situation, it's highly unlikely that they're going to be in a space to receive any education. And I have no qualms with Cardi. Like, that's, yeah. But I say all of that to say, some people get away with saying things that other people just can't. Because, wow. That's it. As much as I would rather.
Alrighty, so let me know what you guys think about this. That'll be it on this topic. I guess if anything else totally crazy happens, then I'll talk about it. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope I was able to teach you something in this. I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a good one. Bye.